Hockey is Canada's game. It has been said a million times, but somehow it seems even more true after reading the story of our next guest. Harnarayan Singh is co-host and play-by-play announcer on Hockey Night in Canada, Punjabi, and Sportsnet. He is also now author of One Game at a Time, My Journey from Small-Town Alberta to Hockey's Biggest Stage. And it's a pleasure to welcome him to our airwaves from Chestermere, Alberta. Harnarayan, how you doing? It's so good to meet you.
Thanks so much. Doing well. Thank you.
Glad to hear it. Well, we're not going to pussyfoot around here. We're going to cut to the chase right away, okay? We are going to start with the moment that made you a hero in Pittsburgh and a viral sensation around the hockey world. And it's all because of a goal scored by a Penguin by the name of Nick Bonino. Roll it, please, Sheldon. That is awesome. What impact did that moment eventually have on your life?
Yes, it was tremendous. I really think that, in Canada, we had made grounds where hockey fans already knew about us because the Hockey Night Punjabi has been around since 2008 and the show has improved and grown since then. But for us to make inroads in the greater hockey world, especially down south in the States, the Bonino call was huge for us. I mean, they used it as a part of the NHL awards. There we were at the parade after in front of 400,000 people. The Stanley Cups presented, the players are right there, and then right after it's us broadcasters. So such a revolutionary moment for our show to bring it to the forefront as to what we were about and what we were doing.
I got that. Hang on, stand by. Sheldon, we got the Stanley Cup parade standing by in Pittsburgh. Let's roll that one too.
Bonino, 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 Nick Bonino!
And the guys, the Penguins behind are loving every second of this. Here's the thing I want to know, though. No one's ever called a goal like that before. I mean, we were all brought up with Foster Hewitt, he shoots, he scores. That's it. Where did the inspiration or the idea come from to repeat this guy's name that many times and have your voice break just on the last one in such a perfect way? Where did that come from?
Well, it was a mistake that became a blessing in disguise, where in my pregame notes, I had written Nick Bonino's name for left wing, center, and right wing. And there it was in front of me, Bonino, Bonino, Bonino. And that was stuck in my head. My colleagues noticed it. I actually didn't even notice the mistake. And I get into this in the book, how there was actually multiple Bonino calls, because prior to that one in the Stanley Cup final, when I actually had made the mistake, we had such a cult following in Pittsburgh with Penguins fans, and they were demanding more Bonino calls. And in the Stanley Cup final, he scores such a big goal. And what an amazing experience, because having Mario Lemieux come up and say that we're a part of Pittsburgh Penguins history, and instead of just shaking my hand, giving me a hug, and I've become friends with Nick Bonino himself, and he said, "Thanks for making me famous." And it's just an incredible bond that Bonino and I will have for the rest of our careers.
I want to take you back now, how did the decision get made to originally start doing Hockey Night in Canada games in Punjabi to begin with?
Well, this is something where the credit has to go to CBC Sports, as in 2008 and during that time frame, they were trying to do some multicultural endeavors where they tried broadcasting Hockey Night in Canada in different languages. They tried Cantonese, Mandarin, Italian, and Inuktitut. And then Mark Crawford, the coach of the Vancouver Canucks, who was just finished there and went on to be a color commentator for a little bit with CBC Sports, he also suggested to Joel Darling, a TV executive still with Hockey Night in Canada, that if you're trying other languages, you have to try Punjabi, because Mark Crawford, as a coach in Vancouver, was experiencing the love that the Punjabi community has for hockey, the passion they have firsthand. When he was pumping gas at the gas station, when he was getting groceries, when he was with his kids at a track and field event in the lower mainland of BC, he said Punjabi families were continuously coming up to him. They always knew about the game, and they were playing a lot of ball hockey in the streets of Surrey. And, we see that also in Brampton, Ontario, places with the high density of South Asians. And so that's what kind of started. And I I think it was probably just going to be a pilot project, but because the ratings, the success, and the way it made the community so proud, it's continued on, and we're 13 seasons in now. I'm really proud to say that.
Well, that's what makes the story so interesting, is that all the other languages were tried but didn't really catch on. Punjabi was tried and it sure did catch on. Any theories as to why?
I think the community is really proud of the achievements that they've made, and I think it really validated the community as Canadian. My own great grandfather came here over 100 years ago. There's been so many hardships that the community has had to face, and so many rights that the right to vote, the right to buy land. There's so much history in it, and then now we see Sikhs as a part of the political world, the business world, and then to have the Punjabi language, part of the Sikh faith, to be a part of the hockey world. It was just tremendous. The other aspect of it is that the Olympic sport of field hockey was very popular in Punjab during a certain time frame, where they won several gold medals in consecutive Olympic games. So field hockey was something the older generation of Punjabis were already familiar with.
I will want to talk about more of that history of your own family and your relationship with the community in a bit, but I am intrigued as well, and you talk about this in the book. Punjabi and hockey, how do I put this? I mean, they don't necessarily go together. There's a lot of terms in hockey for which, Punjabi just doesn't, as many other languages, they just don't really have words for those things. So you had to make up a bunch of things. Can you share some of that with us?
Yeah, some of the penalties in the hockey world and some of the plays that are made and the existing phrases just simply do not translate over very nicely. So, you have things like hooking and high sticking, and so we've had to keep some of those, but we've also created different terms too. So for example, the penalty box in English, we refer to it as Saja da Dabba, which translates back into English as box of punishment. Or we have a slap shot, which is a literal slap to the face, and we call it chapered shot. And the community has fallen in love with all of these terms. We created our own he shoots, he scores, Maria shot, kita goal, and we include a lot of Punjabi flavor. I would like to say that we add the masala, the spices, to the hockey commentary, and the community is very vibrant. The personality is, they love to laugh, they love their music, they love their food, and we incorporate all of that into our game, and the community has really they've really appreciated that.
Now, we're going to do this next part carefully, Harnarayan, because I understand there are some words in the hockey vocabulary that are very similar to words in Punjabi, but which may not be appropriate for family television. You want to share some of those?
Well, yes. There's a certain word I believe you're getting at in terms of the, let's say here, New York Rangers legendary goaltender, King Henrik Lundqvist, and a certain part of his last name translates into a part of a male's body. So let's just say, to go about it carefully here, yeah, there are some times, I think initially on the show, especially, when we were calling the games in Punjabi, we would kind of look at each other when we're saying those names, because it's just almost that high school giddiness feeling when you're first doing that. But yeah, it is kind of one of those humorous things which doesn't translate over too well. So I prefer to call him, in English, they do call Henrik Lundqvist King Henrik, so I converted that to Raja Henrik for a Punjabi call.
Good thinking. Okay. I've read the book, so I know the answer to this next question, but those watching us right now may not. So let's go down this road here. There are going to be people who are aware of your situation, and maybe who are watching right now, who are going to think, this guy's wearing a turban. Shouldn't he be a cricket fan? Shouldn't he be a soccer fan? Why is he a hockey fan? Hockey and Sikhism don't seem to jibe. Okay, what's the answer?
Well, the answer is when you're born and raised in Canada, you have a natural affection and a natural attraction towards the game of hockey. And for my situation, growing up in a small town in southern Alberta, hockey was the icebreaker between my classmates and I would tell you, Steve, that my entire childhood of growing up in a small town in southern Alberta would have been completely and drastically different had it not been for the game of hockey, because I showed up at school, in a town, in a school with very few visible minorities, no one else wearing a turban. I didn't even have other boys and girls from the Sikh faith to have an example of as to what they wore at school to cover their head. And I just had my dad. So I showed up with a formal adult turban on in kindergarten, and there's so much curiosity, and the curiosity is, well, why do you wear that? Why are you vegetarian? As a Sikh, I wear a steel bracelet on my arm to remember the creator at all times. And we spoke a different language at home, we ate different food at home, so as a child, you're trying to find commonality between your classmates. And when I reflect back on my journey, so many of my friendships and the rapport I had with teachers had to do with hockey. And I think when we talk, sports has that unifying force that when you talk about sports, if you're cheering on for the Toronto Maple Leafs, it doesn't matter what background you're from or how you look. Everybody can cheer on for that same team together. And so I think hockey, that unifying force that hockey especially has in Canada, it changed my life.
Well, hockey's a unifying force on a good day, but not every day is a good day in Canada. And I wonder, well, I don't wonder because I know there were times in your past where, for example, people would look at you and say, hockey's our game, it's not your game. Or what are you wearing that thing on your head for? How much have you had to deal with that kind of thing?
It's an interesting question, because initially, of course, I did have to deal with that. And, even before I became a broadcaster, when I would attend NHL games, I was, my friends and I, other Sikh gentlemen who wear turbans, we experienced, even, my wife and her family had beer thrown at them. I've been called raghead. I've been called Taliban. I've experienced a number of different racist moments within the hockey world. But then, of course, when we dove into the broadcast side of things, there have been comments on social media, especially of, I don't want my hockey being given to me from a guy with a turban. It took us a number of years to explain why, this is important, that we're helping grow the game, that, representation is important, and that what we are bringing to the sport is of so much tremendous value and something that hockey really needs. And I think we made a lot of progress, but then in the past few years, things have come out again where, especially on social media, where we're seeing more and more comments about why this is happening, and how we should actually just shut up and talk about hockey. It seems like a lot of kind of this ignorance, for a lack of a better term, has crept back into what we're seeing from people.
Well, I mean, we are at a particular moment of racial reckoning in the history of North America, to be sure. And I'd be very interested in your take on what it means to someone who has had to deal with what you have had to deal with in your life. Share some of that, if you would.
Definitely. And I think it's very important for us to have these conversations. And recently, the comments that have been made have been, please shut up. Not even please, it's just literally shut up and talk about hockey. I don't want to be hearing this when I'm watching sports. But what I will say is that, we are, by having these conversations, we are not marrying politics with sports. We are literally just talking about human rights and a basic level respect for one another. And I think those are important enough things that we need to have these conversations. Had the NHL not postponed their games, had the NBA players not taken a stand, so many households in North America wouldn't be having these conversations. The sports world, the players, the teams, and now the leagues have forced this conversation into people's homes. And it's an important one for us to have, because the only way we can progress as society is if we communicate with one another what our experiences are. If I have someone coming up to me unintentionally, just talking to me, and I had this happen too, where we had salesperson come to our door. I talk about this story in the book, and they did their spiel, and I said thanks but no thanks, and then they just said, welcome to Canada. I just wanted to say welcome to Canada, and they walked off. And so for me, that was devastating, because I'm such a patriotic Canadian. I love this country, I love this game, but I don't want someone to think that just because I look different, just because I'm not Caucasian, that means I'm new here. But my parents came here in the 60s. My great-grandfather came here in the early 1900s. My history and my family's history with Canada might even be greater and stronger than the person who is making that assumption and saying it to me. But the only way we can have progress is if we share these types of stories with one another.
Why do you love Canada so much when on some days of the week, Canada doesn't seem to love you that much?
Well, I would say that that experience, thankfully, has been in the minority of all of the experiences I've had. I love Canada because this is the only country, in my opinion, in the world where someone like myself would have had this type of opportunity to become a hockey commentator. Steve, I had so many people when I was a child, when I went through school, even in post-secondary, tell me that, and these were professionals, these were teachers, and they cautioned me that, Harnarayan, you need to be realistic. You should think about a career where you actually have a realistic chance. And it was a cautionary tale that I heard over and over again. And even within the broadcast world, it was, maybe you should think about producing or behind the scenes, or if you had a shot on the air, it might be news, but certainly not sports. But it is still this country of Canada that gave me this opportunity. And, for the most part, the hockey world, the media portion of the hockey world, the managers at these TV stations, radio stations, they have welcomed me with open arms because I think they really feel that they realize that this is needed in Canada. My small town of Brooks, Alberta, it was a town of much, not very much diversity, but they gave me a glimmer of hope by giving me a shot on the air for high school news and sports and opened the door. And, these were all Caucasian people working there, but that was the light bulb, and that gave me the encouragement that if these guys can give me a shot, then maybe someone else will down the road. So I'm forever grateful for Canada because I think these opportunities only exist here in comparison to anywhere else in the world.
Gotcha. Let me ask you about how well, in your view, professional hockey has dealt with this moment of racial reckoning that we're in. I don't think it would surprise anybody to hear that the National Basketball Association was really at the forefront of dealing with the issues that we're all embroiled in right now. Not surprising, because it's obviously a league whose players are overwhelmingly black men. Hockey is really quite the opposite. There are, of course, players of color in the NHL, but they're not very many. In your view, as you look at it, comparing basketball to hockey, to football, to soccer, to baseball, how well or poorly has the NHL done in making its contribution to this moment in history?
I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of the fact that hockey is, as a sport at the professional level, much less diverse. And so, as they say, better late than never. I think this is an awakening for the rest of the players, though, in the league, whereas you would certainly see, diverse broadcasters like myself, my team with Hockey Night Punjabi, or you would see diverse NHL players previously stand up and take a stand, make a statement. But I think what has happened recently is that this awakening has shown the rest of the players that despite them not being a person of color, they also need to take a stand on this, that this is important enough. And I'll tell you what gives me hope. It's the fact that teams and the league are now taking a stand. They feel this is so important, and they are doing that at the risk of losing and alienating a certain part of their fan base who doesn't want to hear any of this. And we've seen reports of certain teams in the United States who've come out and said we're losing season ticket holders because we are taking a stand on this as a league and as a team, and our players are participating in this, but they're still willing to take that stand. And that's what gives me hope, because we need the teams, the players, the leagues as a whole and as an entity to be able to tackle this and to ensure that we can have more compassion in society and that we can have less hatred. And so that's what gives me hope that we are actually taking a step in the right direction. The NHL having Kim Davis, a black woman who has done so much for diversity and inclusion, at the forefront, that's helping accelerate the process in hockey as well.
I want to ask you a question now about your wife. You have undoubtedly, you've got the best wife in the world, right? And here's why I say this. Sheldon, bring up picture number 3, if you would. How great is this? This is your wedding, which takes place in a hockey arena, and that wedding cake is, of course, the Stanley Cup. How did you find a woman who would agree to all of this?
I'm very extremely grateful and lucky, and her creativity knows no bounds. Even the home office I'm sitting in, this is all her design, and it's an entire wall of the journey of my career thus far. And yes, our Stanley Cup wedding cake was a life-size Stanley Cup, and people wanted to touch it and not just eat it. And we had mini hockey sticks with our names and the date of our wedding engraved for all the kids. We had hockey pucks, we had hockey cards of ourselves, we had a 50-50 ticket, and half the money went to charity. Just like everything you could imagine that would happen at a hockey game. We even sent, Steve, some of our elders, some of our relatives on both sides to the penalty box. And it was a hilarious moment I talk about in the book. We had a musical chairs game. My side of the family, so many aunts and uncles ended up in the penalty box, and the MC said, well, what's going on? And my uncle from California said, well, it's okay, we don't care about winning this game, we won yesterday, we got the girl. And so I'm so thankful to have Suki in my life, especially since as a broadcaster averaging 75, 80 flights a year. And now we've got 2 kids, and she takes it all in stride and supports me to no limit. And it's incredible to have a life partner that supports you in such a unique career, where I've been on a roller coaster and trying to make this full time and trying to find my ground in the industry. So it's been a long journey, and she's been there from day one.
That's terrific. And the journey, we should remind everybody, the journey started very modestly. I mean, at the beginning, you had to pay your own expenses, your own airfare, all of that kind of stuff just to participate. Is that right?
Yeah, and my parents, my mom especially kept telling me that when Hockey Night Punjabi started, that this is a service to our community, and she goes, just do whatever it takes, even if you have to pay for your own flights to be a part of it. Someday it'll pay off. And so the show in the first 3-4 seasons was based in Toronto. I was living in Calgary. Didn't make sense for me to move out to Toronto with the cost of living for one day of work, which at the time, we weren't making too much at all. And I don't blame anybody for this, because when CBC Sports, Hockey Night in Canada told me they didn't have the budget to fly me in and out every weekend, I understood that, but I wasn't going to say that, okay, well, that's too bad, I can't be a part of it. I just decided to do whatever it took. And so that Pearson International Airport, during those years, I knew every inch of that place as to, where were the best benches to sleep and where were the best bathrooms, the best place to have a snack. I used to sleep there overnight and to take the latest flight into Toronto, the earliest flight back home in Calgary, go straight to the temple, the Gurdwara, to be with my family on Sunday, because I was worried if I gave up my faith, this dream that came true might disappear too. And so it was a fascinating time. I lost a lot of sleep, but I also gained a lot of air miles.
Terrific. Let's finish up on this. You've had also an unusual connection with your province in Alberta, in as much as you grew up near Calgary, but you're a massive fan of Wayne Gretzky and the Edmonton Oilers. So I'm not sure I don't know how that would have gone down well in Calgary. But anyway, you somehow managed to get through all that. And then all these years later, you are doing the broadcasting, but you also work part-time with the Flames now, do you not?
And let me clarify, massive fan of the Oilers has changed from my childhood to now being a massive fan of Canadian teams, because that's really what matters at the end of the day for our broadcast, for the show. And, I want to see all the Canadian teams succeed. But the Flames, I have to give them so much credit because of the fact that there is a weekly segment called Flames TV Punjabi, and they were the first team, and I pitched this to several of them, and they were the first team to realize that, this was something that's important, and it's going to help grow their fan base. And we have a Sikh parade, and I know people in Ontario are familiar with these because there's a number of them that happen around the occasion of Vaisakhi in April and May. And I've been able to have the Calgary Flames participate in 2 of the Vaisakhi Nagar Kirtans, the Sikh parades in Calgary too. And, when you have 30,000-40,000 people there, the Flames, it makes sense to have a presence. But of course, Wayne Gretzky, I would say that my favorite characteristic of his on and off the ice is his humility. He broke all Gordie Howe's records, but he gave Gordie Howe so much respect and always gave credit to his teammates. The way Gretzky carries himself is something that I tried to apply to my life, to carry myself in that sort of same manner and same regard.
Well, Gretzky, no question, was a pioneer in hockey, and I have to say, my friend, so are you. Congratulations on the book, One Game at a Time. Harnarayan Singh, Hockey Night in Canada, Punjabi, and Sportsnet. And it's been a great pleasure having you on TVO tonight. Be well.
Thank you so much.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario. CPA Ontario is a regulator, an educator, a thought leader, and an advocate. We protect the public. We advance our profession. We guide our CPAs. We are CPA Ontario. And by viewers like you. Thank you.